So this video is going to help you learn the basics of Tinkercad. So on Classroom, I posted a link that takes you to Playing in the Sandbox Day. So what you need to do is you need to click on Tinkercad.com, click on Sign In, and log in with your KIS email. We have not set up a classroom yet. So once you've logged in, come back and you're going to have to create a new design. Okay, so now that you're in Tinkercad, we're going to go ahead and follow the instructions that are on this sheet here. So I'm just going to go through and show you how to do each and every single feature that's listed here. Number one, how to adjust the grid. So you can adjust the grid by clicking on the cube in the top left corner. You can click on any part of the cube and it's going to manipulate the work plane. You could zoom in and out by clicking the plus and the minus. Or you can click the home to go back to the center of the screen. Next, we'll look at how to drag boxes to the grid and how to move them up and down. So we'll take a box here on the right and drag it to the center. So you can click this cone here and that'll take the box up and down like that. It can go underneath the plane or above the plane. And on the right side, it tells you how many millimeters the box is up off the plane. Next thing we're going to do is focus on the second set of tasks. How to resize the box length, width, and height. And also how to turn and adjust the shape. So how to adjust the length, width, and height of our box. If you hold down the shift key and touch the corner, you can drag it so everything increases and decreases at the same rate. You can also just adjust the width and the length by not holding down the shift key. If you want to go back to where you were previously, all you have to do is hit Command Z. You can also adjust the height by clicking on this gray or whitish square here, and that'll take it up. The next thing we're going to look at is how to duplicate shapes and how to group shapes. To duplicate a shape, all you have to do is click on the shape, hold down Command, click C, like you would if you were going to copy something. Then hold down Command and hit V. There you go, I've duplicated the shape. I could also do the same thing by clicking on a shape and going next to the trash can and clicking on Duplicate and Repeat. Now I have several shapes, just like the first one I had. I'm going to hit Command Z and just delete all these extra shapes here. The next thing we'll look at is how to group shapes. So I'm going to take the sphere on the right here and drag it to the work plane. I'm going to use the cone feature above the sphere and I'm going to drag it up in the air. Now I'm going to change the angle of my work plane so I could see what it looks like. To check to make sure it's above the box, I've got to turn it so it's facing the top. So I'll drag it over here. So now it's above now it's above the box. Now, I still have a bit of a gap here, so I've got to drag it down so it touches the box. Looking at the side here, I would say that it's pretty much in the center of the work plane. Double check, I can click on both shapes, go up here to the top right corner and click Align. If I click on this Center Align tool here, this ensures that the ball is in the center of the box. Now I will take my mouse and drag it over both shapes and click the group option. Notice how my entire shape became red. To make this ball blue again, I'll click on the solid circle and go down to multicolor. And there we go. I've grouped two shapes. Now we're going to look at how to flip and rotate shapes. So what I'll do is I'm going to turn this way. And there's two arrows I'm looking at here. Here's one, and here's another one. So if I want to rotate this shape, I'm going to go just to the right of this arrow here, and I could just turn it like that. I could also, this one turns it left and right, so it tilts it. So I'll leave my shape tilted just for a minute. And now I'm going to go up to the right-hand corner here and click the mirror. And this allows me to flip it in different directions. So now I did Command Z several times until I got back to where it was originally. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drag a box to the plane. If I want to change the color of this box, all I have to do is click on Solid Color and then change it to whatever color I want. The next thing we're going to do is learn how to take a bite out of shapes. So I'm going to choose the same shape that I already dragged out here, but I'm going to pull it closer to me. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drag a sphere from the shapes over here. Okay, now I'm going to take my sphere and I'm going to drag it over to this box here. I'm going to lift it up, but instead of placing it on top like the last example, I'm going to pull it just so it's barely in front of the shape. So there's still a gap there, and what I want to do is I want to drag it so it's actually inside the other shape like that. Okay, so now you've done this, you could highlight both shapes. Oh, wait. Actually, click on the sphere first, and then click. There you go. Click hole here. This is going to be how we're going to make a hole in our shape. So now highlight the shape, both shapes, and then click group. And you can see here how part of it disappears. The next thing we're going to do is imprint our name into a shape. So we'll take a box again, and we're going to zoom in a bit so we can get a good view. And I'm going to get a good top view here. And I'm going to make this a bit larger. It doesn't matter on the size, just so it's bigger. And that should be fine. I'm going to raise the height a little bit, so I need to change the angle. Okay. All right, so that's a good size, but I need to zoom out just a little bit. All right, so I am putting my name into this block here. To do that, where it says Basic Shapes, I'll click on that, and I'll go down to Text and Numbers. Here's a text option here. I'll drag that out to the work plane. I need to make this turn on its side so it's facing up. Okay, so I've got to rotate this direction here. And I got to rotate this. I'm going to click on the rotate option on the left here. Lift this up. I would play around with that quite a bit to figure out how to turn that up if I were you. Now, to change the letters in the text, I'm going to change it from text to Mr. Alu. Put your name in there. If it's Casey, put Casey in. Whatever your name is, write that in there. Just for fun, I'll put my cat's name. So now, I'm going to lift this up off the ground, and I'm going to imprint this in to this shape here. Now, I'm not sure, though, if it's actually in the shape, so I'm going to turn and look. See, it's not. So I've got to pull this back just a little bit. There we go. Okay, that looks pretty good. So I want to imprint this into the box, so I've got to highlight on both of these. So actually, before I do that, I've got to click this here. I've got to turn the Luna into a hole shape there. So I'm going to highlight both of these, and then click group. Okay, there we go. So Luna is now imprinted into shape. So if I were to make my width very, very strong in the back, it can actually go from one end to the other. But I'd have to do quite a bit of, like that, right? So let's try that. Let's see how that works. So it goes from one side all the way to the other. See? And then now I can see from one end all the way to the other. I didn't do the best job, though, of lining it up as I cut off some of the side over there. Right. Okay. Okay, the very last thing we're going to do today is we're going to make a house really quickly here. So we're going to drag a red cube over to the grid and make it 20 by 20 by 40. Okay, so I'll make this 20, 20. All right, so there we go. So it is 20 by 20 by 40. It looks like it's 23, so let me just shrink that a little bit there. Okay. Now I'm going to duplicate the box and decrease the dimensions of the duplicate just slightly. Remember, to duplicate a box, you just click on the duplicate option once you've clicked on it. So I've duplicated my box and I've dragged it out slightly. Now I'm going to take the height, width, and length and just shrink it a little bit. Except the height, though. Actually, I think I'm going to make it a little bit taller. And you'll see why in just a minute. Now I'll take each length and width and I'll just go inside just a little bit. Let's do it to 35 here. And I'm going to rotate my shape here. And take this 15. Okay. Okay, what I'm doing again is I'm just making a very small house. All right, so now I'm going to click hole, and I'm going to drag this over here. And line that up. Yes, thank you. That looks pretty good, but just to double check, I'll highlight it, and I will align it by the Align tool up here, and then click here. Okay, so that means that it's going to be in the center of the top, so that looks pretty good. So now I will drag and highlight, and there we go. Okay, so now I've created walls for my house. The next thing we'll do is we will select the triangle roof and drag it to the work plane. I'm going to lift this up 20 meters because that's 20 millimeters because that's what the height of the house is, and drag it over to the work plane. Looks like I need to go up just a little bit more. Oops. Just a little bit more. Okay, I want to rotate this so it is actually covering the house because my house isn't covered right now. Let's see, how do I want to do that? Oh, here we go. I'll just do a 90-degree turn. There we go. And I'm going to drag it so it covers the house. You ever seen a house before? The roof goes slightly over the house on each side. Okay, just a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to take a closer look. See how that looks. It looks pretty good. Okay, so now I'm going to drag my mouse once again, and I'm going to group these two shapes together. Now, the colors end up being all red, but remember, you just click on the red shape and click multicolor, and that brings you here. There we go. My house looks pretty good. I'm almost done. One last thing I have to do with my house. We're going to select a round roof shape and a box. So here's my round roof shape. I'll bring that to the work plane. And here is my box shape. I'm going to take the round roof shape and I'm going to bring it up so it is it's parallel with the roof. Okay, this has got to go down just a little bit though, too. There we go. Okay, so now it just sits straight on this box here. Doesn't quite sit on straightly, so I'll just move it over just a little bit so it matches up. Check the view from above. It looks pretty good. Just to double check, as always, I will click on both shapes, and I'll click the Align tool. And because the shape is gray here, that means it's lined up in the center. So I'll highlight it. Be careful not to highlight your other box over there. Oh, and I got to click here. Now it's grouped, and it turns red. The color doesn't matter because I'm just going to use this as a whole anyway. Rotate this, let's see, just so it faces that direction, 90 degrees. And I'm going to shrink this down. And let's put that inside my house. Okay. I'm going to drag my mouse over the house and click the group tool to make my house. There we go. Okay, now my house is completed. The last thing I'm going to have you do today is I'm going to show you how to save your work. So normally, for most projects, we would click Export, and you can save it as STL, which allows you to save it as a 3D image. But for today, what we're going to do is we're going to click on Send To. Show you that again. Send To. Click next to the image and click Download. And then go ahead and save that to Google Classroom. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and hopefully you learned a little bit about Tinkercad.